Question. I'm at the part in another video where you ask, did our minds create the reality simulator? What do you mean by mind? The brain? Is the brain just a processor projector of the avatar in a simulation? Neuroscientists have evidence that the brain is indeed creating the simulation. So where is this brain actually located? Or where is this avatar actually located? Is it inside the simulation? Or are we a conscious and aware being who's observing this processing and projection coming from our brain? If we are a real being with a brain, where exactly are we? Well, I have to give you a little bit of background for this. And I have explained this in many videos, so some viewers will probably be familiar with it. But what I'm saying is that our total being is much more complicated than what we have been brought up to believe. So we actually have 4 levels of our minds. There's the purely physical, which is the brain. Then above that, we have in vibration, higher energies, we have the emotional mind, the mental mind, and the identity mind. And beyond that, we have a spiritual self. So, is the brain just a processor? Neuroscientists have evidence that the brain is indeed creating the simulation. Well, the brain is a very, very complicated device, you might say. Scientists have discovered, what is it they say? I think that there are more neurons in a human brain than there are stars or galaxies in the entire universe, something like that. So the brain is incredibly complex, and the brain has abilities to create all kinds of things. So certainly some of what people experience is created by the brain. I mean, I think, for example, that most dreams are just created by the brain. But certainly some of the things we think or experience in our waking state can also be either created by the brain or affected by the brain. But not everything is created by the brain, because we also have the emotional, mental, and identity levels of the mind. And they are independent of the brain in the sense that, well, what I explain in several of my videos, including how the world was created, is our world is created from energy. And energy originates in what I call the spiritual realm, which is higher vibrations. And the material world is created by spiritual energy being lowered in vibration. So first, the spiritual energy is lowered to the vibration of the identity level. Then that energy is lowered to the vibration, the spectrum of the mental level. Again, it's lowered to the emotional and then to the physical. So there is we might say, there's a progression there in the sense that everything we see in the physical is not created at the physical level. That's where materialistic scientists limit themselves, because they are looking for the cause of everything at the physical level. And you cannot find the mind by only looking at the brain, because the brain is purely physical. So the physical mind, the physical brain, is really a projection from the emotional, mental, and identity levels. The physical universe is a projection from these levels. So that's why the question is, where exactly is the mind? Well, in a sense, the mind is both the physical brain, but also the emotional, mental, and identity level. But there's more to the mind than even those 4 levels. So, a person is asking, is the brain just a processor projector of the avatar in a simulation? Are we conscious beings observing this processing and projection coming from our brain? Well, yes, that's one way to put it, because as I explained in several videos, beyond these 4 levels of the mind, the brain, the emotional, mental, and identity, there is the core of our being, which is the conscious you, I call it, because it isn't this outer structure in the mind. The 4 levels of the mind are filled with structures. I call them subconscious selves. But beyond that, the conscious you is just pure awareness. So you could say the conscious you is, in its essence, in its pure form, it's an observer who is witnessing what is going on, all what is created in the identity, mental, emotional, and physical level, in the physical brain. And in a sense, you could say, to give a crude illustration, the identity level is like one film strip in a movie projector. When the white light comes through it, the white light comes to the spiritual realm from your higher self. When the light comes through it, it's colored by it. The mental mind is another film strip that colors the light even more and gives shape to it. The emotional mind is another film strip, and then the brain is a 4th film strip. And your conscious awareness is like a person sitting in a movie theater watching a movie on the screen. And the movie is created as the light passes through these 4 film strips. So in a sense, you are observing. But the thing is, you are actually more than observing, because instead of just passively sitting there, you are interacting with the whole structure. You are, as I said, you can identify yourself with the outer mind, with your sense of identity, even your thoughts, your feelings, even your physical body. Many people are completely identified with their physical bodies, for example. So that means instead of just being a passive observer, you are actually, it's actually an interactive 3D environment, 4D environment. And that's why I use the example of a simulator, because you can see that what we have so far, whether it's a flight simulator or whether it is virtual reality goggles, you are having them, you're experiencing the environment created by the simulator, but you're also interacting with it. So you are moving around in the simulation, and the simulation changes as you move around. And so so in a sense, we are, you could say, if the conscious you is aware that it is not the outer mind, then you can be a neutral observer. And there are many spiritual people that talk about this. You can have this experience that you're just observing what's happening. You're not identified with it. You're not judging or evaluating. You're just a silent witness, as it's called. But most of the time, and for most people, the conscious you is completely identified with the contents of the 4 levels of the mind. And therefore, you're not just observing. You are interacting with it. You're being affected by it. Which is fine. That's the purpose of the simulator, so to speak, is to give you an experience that helps you raise your awareness. And so, where is the mind located is one question here. If we are a real being with a brain, where exactly are we? Well, you can't really answer the question, because the question is asked from what I call the linear mind, that can only think in terms of time and space. And the conscious you is not located in time and space. And even this statement, you have to qualify it, because you can say, if the conscious you is completely identified with the body, you can at least metaphorically say the conscious you is actually somewhere inside your brain. And it's looking out from inside the brain. It's like you exist inside your brain, behind your eyes, and you're looking out through the eyes. You're experiencing the world through the eyes. And it's important, I think, to realize that when you are looking at something, you're not actually seeing what your eyes are seeing. Right now you're watching this video. There are light rays coming off the screen that are entering your eyes. But you're not seeing what those light rays. because the light waves in your retina are converted into signals, electronic signals, or electromagnetic signals, that goes to the visual cortex of your brain, and in your brain they are converted to what you see. So the way we could illustrate this is to say that you have these traffic control centers, where they have these traffic cameras all over the city. And the traffic cameras are connected, and what a particular camera sees is displayed on a monitor inside the dark control room. So this is your brain. It's a dark room, and it's displaying the signals coming from the eyes, but it's displaying them on a screen. And it depends on what the machinery of your brain is. That will determine what you see on the screen. So as I'm saying, if you're completely identified your body, you can say the conscious you is inside your brain. It's sitting in the control room of the brain, watching what's displayed on the screen. But what is displayed on the screen is not exactly the same as what your eyes see. It could be distorted by your brain. And then, of course, you can have people that are more identified with their feelings. So in a sense, you could say your conscious you is then somewhere in your emotional body. And there are some people that are more intellectual. They're identified with their thinking mind, so the conscious you is located there. But really, you can't really say that the conscious you is in a physical location, because the conscious you isn't a physical thing. In other words, you will never ever be able to create some kind of scientific measuring instrument that can measure, oh, there's the conscious you. Now we have it on the screen. It's not going to happen, because it isn't physical. But as I said, the conscious you can identify itself with certain things, meaning you are now experiencing the world through that. But the conscious you isn't in that sense localized in time and space. It is localized in the sense that it has a center of awareness. It's like the conscious you, as I've said several times, I'm sitting here and I am looking at the world from this vantage point. I can turn around and but I'm still looking out from a certain point. So in that sense, the conscious you is localized, but it's not localized in time and space. And so then, as I also explained in many of my videos, beyond the conscious you is your higher self, your I am presence, which is experiencing the world through the conscious you. But it's not fully identifying itself as the conscious you. It knows it's more. It's kind of like you could say that the I am presence knows that it's just experiencing the world through the conscious you. The conscious you can also come to realize that that's what spiritual growth is all about. But as long as you're fully identified with the four lower bodies, the conscious you is fully immersed in the experience. That's why when I talk about a reality simulator, there are two basic experiences. We can have the immersion experience where the conscious you is completely identified with the environment of the simulator. And then an awakening experience where you gradually disidentify yourself from the environment. You realize you're more than the environment. You're just observing the environment and interacting with it, but you are not really you're not a product of this environment. You are connected to a higher self which is beyond the simulator.